Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. We have a terrific panel of faculty here to talk with you today for about half an hour or 40 minutes about what we do and SIPA's role in your education. Here we have Professors Nutter, Kirkland, and Liu. I'm Michael Ting, and maybe we can begin with a round of introductions. So, Mayor Nutter.
Oh, great. Good morning. Great to see all of you. I've heard this is a tremendously enthusiastic bunch, so we're gonna test that this morning. I'm Michael Nutter. I'm former mayor of the city of Philadelphia. I still live in Philadelphia. I came up this morning, and I love torturing New Yorkers by telling them that I can actually get to Manhattan quicker than some New Yorkers through the wonders of Amtrak, which really just drives them crazy. But I still live in Philadelphia, born, raised, educated, spent all my life in Philly. Philadelphia City Councilman, 14 and a half years, 8 years as mayor. We have a 2-term limit. And I came straight to Columbia right after leaving the mayor's office in January of 2016. Could not be happier. Just finished my 10th year, and I'm having a ball.
Great, Professor Kirkland.
Hi, I am Patricia Kirkland. I am an assistant professor of international and public affairs. By training, I'm a political scientist, so I'm the sort of odd, well, I guess Michael's an academic as well. But I do lots of research on American politics with a particular focus on cities. I also teach some classes here at SIPA in the core, as well as classes on urban politics and policymaking and cities and American federalism.
Thanks. And Professor Liu?
My name is Jack Liu. I joined SIPA in 2017 after serving as Secretary of the Treasury, which was at that point the end of a long career in public service that had included Director of the Office of Management and Budget, White House Chief of Staff, Deputy Secretary of State, and many years working on the Hill for the Speaker of the House. I thought I had retired from government, but I was called back into public service, breaking my time here at SIPA to serve as U.S. Ambassador to Israel. And when I came home a year ago, January, I resumed my position on the faculty here. And I'm also the Faculty Policy Director of our Institute of Global Politics. I'm delighted to be with all of you here today. Welcome.
Great, thanks. And I teach both game theory and decisions and behavior in the core here. So I have a few general questions that I'd like to maybe engage you all on. The first being, well, we're being reminded every day that the world is an unpredictable place. What advice do you think you would give students starting their education, their professional education, about how to handle that, both in their curriculum and their career plans?
Stay strong, stay vigilant. People ask me all the time, what gives you a sense of hope? And my answer is the same, and it is true. You all give me a sense of hope. The students that I teach tomorrow, I teach on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. That's not an advertisement, but I am in room 407. No. You all are tremendously resilient. When I think about, probably there's no set age, maybe an average age. The things that you all have seen and experienced over the last 20 some odd years is what actually gives me a sense of hope. You are here today. You showed up. That's actually a big part of leading a successful life, is showing up. And I mentioned I'm a lifelong Philadelphian. It pains me to talk about how wonderful New York is. The Phillies and the Mets, the Eagles and the Giants. I mean, it's just, we love crushing them. But I love being here in New York. It is a great city. And what I love Admitted Students Day, and the one thing I want to convey is that you always hear, you're at Columbia University. And I just want to remind you that the official name of this school is Columbia University in the city of New York. Take advantage of both. New York is a part of your classroom, and it's an incredible place, a wonderful experience, and really, experience all of it. I'm not going to give you great advice about courses. You have people to do that. But, take the things you have to, and then take some other things, right? Experience the full place. And this will possibly be the worst advice, and please don't tell any of your professors when you come here that someone said this, but all of your work and all of your experience and all of your learning will not necessarily be in the classroom. And there are other things to do, like fun, like friends, like going out. You're going to do the work anyway. You might as well enjoy yourself.
Okay, I guess I will start with the work. I think that you are in a unique situation, which is that you'll come to SIPA and you'll be taking some classes and you'll be paying attention to what's going on in the world. And it is complicated, and it is sometimes a little, I think even more than complex, things seem a little crazy sometimes. But I think you can double down as a student and learn both from people who are trained in political science or economics or some academic discipline. You can learn a lot about the institutions of government and diplomacy. You can learn a lot about how things work from them. And then you can go to class with practitioners like Mayor Nutter, and you can sort of learn how these things play out in the real world. But one thing I would encourage you to do is take some classes maybe that make you a little bit sort of uncomfortable. And even if you think, why do I need to know this? Dig in a little bit and think, this is going to make me a better consumer of information, and it's going to put me in a better position to sort of parse what I observe going on in the world. And beyond that, I would echo Mayor Nutter's point about New York City. You're in a unique place. There are so many things that you can do. Be sure that you take advantage of them, even if you just take a walk in. There are parks on either side of the neighborhood. If that does it for you, take a walk in the park. If not, head to a museum. There are so many things to do. So I would also encourage you to take a little break here and there.
So I think in an uncertain world, you've taken the first step by putting your hand up and being here. The only answer that I can give for hope in an uncertain world is to roll up your sleeves and do the work. And it's not somebody else's job, it's your job. It was our job. We're passing the baton on to your generation. And that gives me hope, because I teach classes where I think students are going to just feel burdened by the news of the day. And they're looking beyond the news of the day to what can we do when we get a chance. And I think you get a unique opportunity at SIPA, as Trish was saying, to learn from practitioners as well as from people who've grown up in the academic world. And I think one of the things that's not unique but special about SIPA is that the faculty doesn't bring their background into the room when they sit and engage. They learn from each other, they share from each other, they share with you. There's a real desire to bring the academic world and the real world together. I can tell you from having spent most of my career in the federal government, answers only come when people open their ears as well as their mouth, and they listen to others. You'll have a chance here to listen to each other, to learn from a faculty, and to take forward what I hope is the optimism that brings you here today, that you can make a difference, because you can.
Thank you. So since we have a former mayor and a specialist in urban politics here, I guess I want to ask next, how do you sort of bring New York into students' experiences here?
Sure. We're in an exciting time, of course. I mean, Jack and Trish have talked about what's going on in the world, but I mean, again, you're in New York City. We have a mayor who was literally just elected last year. You're at the start of an administration. I started my campaign to run for mayor, it's actually 20 years ago, in 2006. The election was in 2007. So I very much remember what those early days are like. Announcements every day, appointments every day, new policies every other day. You get to follow all of that right here up close and personal. Before you know it, it's toward the tail end of your first year, you're starting to already think about, internships and opportunities. City of New York, government has internship opportunities. And so, again, this is the biggest city in America. It is a financial capital, not just of the United States, but of one of the great cities of the world. And as Trish touched on, those opportunities extend in so many, many ways to all of you. But you get to see policy made and then implemented, right? Every day, this government, the Philly government, Chicago, wherever you came from, right? Local government is in your life. You don't even really think about it. You woke up this morning, you turn on a faucet somewhere, and you expected clean water to come out, brush your teeth, take a shower, whatever the case may be. That's the New York City Water Department, right? You walk down the street, you expect that the traffic signals will work. Tonight, the street lights will come on at dusk. If you call 911, a uniformed person, well-trained, is going to show up to deal with that particular issue. On and on and on and on. And you are in a place where what gets taught in the classroom plays out daily in our lives and on the streets of this city and cities all across America. And so you bring all of those pieces together. Someone had to make a decision. Someone has to do something. What I tell my students in class is that you are not officially alive until some elected or appointed person signs your birth certificate. And you are not officially dead until some elected or appointed person signs your death certificate. And everything that happens in between, someone who got elected or appointed is making decisions. You get to be involved in that work.
That's a tough answer to follow. so I guess I'll focus on the sort of...
It's the first time I've ever said that.
Focus on the sort of academic and learning part. I think one of the amazing things about New York City is that it's a city that does a lot of things. And when I say a lot of things, I mean it's a large government with a huge budget, a lot of departments, and the city actually sort of has hands-on service provision. So it's a place where you can really connect a policy about, sanitation, there's something going on in the sanitation department or something happening with pre-K programs. You can actually connect it to something very visible that you're going to see sort of in your daily life. It's also a nice contrast to cities that do a lot less, because I think for most of us, when we think about cities, we think about New York and Philadelphia and Chicago and Los Angeles. Some of my work focuses on much smaller cities, and so we can think about what is it possible to do in New York versus what is it possible to do in a much smaller place. One other thing I would say that's amazingly great about New York City is that, like some other large cities, when they implement new policies, particularly policies that are sort of innovative or experimental, the city often tries to do so in a way that they can actually collect some evidence and evaluate the effectiveness of the policy. Sometimes they work with nonprofit organizations, sometimes they work with universities and students, but it creates an amazing opportunity to think about, how do I pilot a new program? How do I evaluate the results? And to be able to actually see it in action. It's one of the things that I try and incorporate into my class, sort of almost every week, is to look at some sort of innovative policy and how we evaluate it.
Thanks. Jack,
As a
go ahead.
lifelong New Yorker, I'm going to add two parochial New York points. One, New York is a global city. Even as a high school student in New York, I could find NGOs or media outlets where I could get engaged in being involved in issues of the day as a high school student. When you get to the end of your first year and you're looking for internships, we have the United Nations. We have so many of the major foundations that are involved in global development. We have, as you've heard, a huge city government that offers opportunities. So it's local and global opportunity that you have in New York. And notwithstanding what you might have heard from other places, we have the ability to get from here to there quickly. You go into the subway on the one train and you get anywhere in 20, 30 minutes. I used to have people make fun of me in Washington because I was such a New York booster, and they didn't believe I would come back to New York after all my years in government, and I came back as soon as I could.
Great. So our building is, I think, just one of the world's finest collections of researching academics and practitioners. And I was wondering if you could all maybe just reflect a little bit on the connection between theory and practice in your classes for your students.
You want to go first?
So the classes that I teach are somewhere in between academic and practice. So I teach a course on democratic institutions, how our system balance of powers is structured. I go through the founding documents, and I bring people into challenges that I dealt with as a cabinet member, as a staff member in different points in my career. And I bring it to the issues of the day, where things are in flux. You know, I think all of us who have come from the policy world look to the university as a place where you can step back from the fray and do some deeper thinking. So we have a group that is working to think through the tools of economic statecraft. We have around the table almost all the people who've designed our programs that deal with economic licenses and sanctions. And we have faculty members who have economic theory that we frankly did not have access to when we were in the fray. And there's a conversation going on where we're informing each other. And then I take that back into the classroom when I talk to my students. So I view it as a seamless connection between academic rigor and real-world practical application. In the real world, you have to make a decision when the decision needs to be made with the best information available to you and the best analysis that you can muster in time to make a decision before it's too late. So the more you develop the tools in an academic setting to be able to operate in a policy setting, the better the policy will be.
I think for me, one of the most sort of fascinating things about being at SIPA is that there's such a sort of broad sweep of research and experience that faculty members have. And it's helped me to sort of increase the insight and the value of my own research by sort of thinking about things from other points of view. I also, as someone who, you know, my primary job is teaching and doing research about American politics, I've never worked in government. So it's amazing to me to be able to go into a classroom or a conversation or a meeting and have somebody with that experience say to me, well, you know, that's not really how that works. And by the same token, I think one of the things that it's really helpful to learn in an academic sense is to how to sort of hear and listen to information, particularly because we all have a model in our head for how the world works, and sometimes it's not right. And so sometimes being an academic and reading a lot of different models and having that exposure to different theories and different empirical findings can help you sit back and be a better listener and, you know, sort of think through the details of things a little bit better.
I teach two different courses, one in the spring, one in the fall. The fall is Urban Policy, Politics, and Public Service 101. That's a lot about going into public service. A big part of the course is about running for office, usually, I don't know, upwards of 25% of, some semesters, upwards of 25% of my students, I ask on the first day, who thinks that they may run for office one day, and you know, tons of hands go up. It's actually been growing over the past few years. Most of the rest will go into, as Jack talked about, NGOs, nonprofits, foundation, community. I've started now asking a question in class, and does anyone here ever expect to make any money in their life. One or two hands go up, and I tell them they're responsible for the rest of the class. And then in the spring, it's critical issues in urban public policy, which actually was a course created by now the late Mayor Dinkins. I took over his course when he stopped teaching before he passed away. And that's a weekly series of guest speakers to talk about some critical issue in urban public policy. As I mentioned, I teach tomorrow. Our guest speaker is actually in London. She's a former student, 2016 in my class, who started a nonprofit actually with a grant that she received while in school. There's a grant program to support really great ideas. She and her partner won that award, her SIPA student partner, and now is the executive director. So she's going to zoom in from London, where she lives now. I try to really help students understand what it's like to be in these various jobs, what it's like to be in that seat. But to Tricia's point, understanding theory, understanding the evolution of public policy, and to Jack's point as well, is critically important. Matching those skills together, I think, is really the beauty of what we offer and what we provide here at SIPA. You will get both and be able to be in rooms with high-level folks and hold your own, be active, be engaged, and be a real thinker, but also a doer.
Great, thank you. So we have time for a few questions. So if anyone's interested, please raise your hands, and I'll try to.
All right, here we go.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here, for taking the time to do this. For me, what's really clear here is the quantitative rigor and the analytical rigor that Columbia SIPA offers. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about, especially now, where it feels like being the smartest person in the room doesn't matter as much as it once did, how you guys help with the training of qualitative skills and more person-to-person skills that we see in more younger, up-and-coming, like our mayor and different political officials.
So first, I would not treat learning the quantitative skills as something whose day is past. I think the rigor of the kind of basic tools is so hugely important when you get on the field, and it will give you the ability to engage and add value early in your career and throughout. So I think one can reach the conclusion that because we may have some policymakers who don't find data compelling, that data is no longer important. The problems will remain, and it will require an analysis informed by data to come up with solutions going forward. So I think it's hugely relevant. I think your point on qualitative analysis, I teach a course which is all qualitative analysis in terms of dealing with domestic and international financial challenges, crises, in a situation where the data is, it is what it is. You don't have complete data, but you have either IMF data or Congressional Budget Office data. You have the data that a policymaker would have. And then I put students into the position in a world of imperfect choices. How do you think it through? How do you make the case for what is the best you can do? How do you determine when the best you can do is so much of an improvement it's worth doing, or it's not enough to make it worth pretending you solved the problem? And none of them are straightforward, right-wrong solutions. They're all shades of gray, because in my experience in 30 years in government, the black and white decisions don't come up to policymakers that much. It's the hard ones. It's the ones where you can't get everything you want. You have to decide what are the most important things. You have to figure out how to build the support to have the policy adopted, either through Congress or whatever body is responsible. And that's going to be informed by having the foundation in solid analysis and then the qualitative skills to bring it together. What I try to teach my students is never start with the political answer. Never start with what's the best you can do. Always start with what's the right answer, and how close to that can you come. And that's where the qualitative enters in.
I would only add to that, I think it is certainly admirable to strive to be either at least the most informed person in the room, if not the smartest. I was probably more the former than the latter in my career. But, please don't discount the human component of this. And what I mean by that is often the best and smartest idea is not the one that gets implemented because you have to work with people. So here in New York, you have 51 city council members. In Philadelphia, you have 17. These are not massive numbers. You don't need a calculator for it. But the question is, can you get 9 votes or 26? And that comes through your human contact interaction. Like, do people like you? Do you know how to get along? Can you explain things at a level that don't make other people feel like maybe they're not that smart, right? So your communication skills, your ability to get along with people and explain your point. It may be the greatest idea since sliced bread and cold ice cream. It does not mean that it's going anywhere, right? So it's a combination of all of those things, and in the presentation and your personal engagement with folks. And not everyone's going to like you. Certainly not everyone liked me when I was in office. But if the idea was good and you made your case and you made it in a way that made that person feel like they were valued, that their opinion mattered, that you didn't necessarily have it all together. And then I think back to Jack's point, a compromise is not a bad word. I had to compromise a lot in both the legislative side and the executive side in 22 and a half years of public service. How do you get to yes? And some days, if you're only going to get 80% of what you wanted, but it's the good 80%, I'm going to take that 80%, and I'm going to tell you right up front, and next week, I'm coming back for the other 20, right? We are not done. But today, this is all I'm going to get out of the legislative body, and sometimes that's what it is.
I just want to add a quick point. There are a lot of things you have to do at SIPA to finish your degree, but there are also a lot of choices that you make. And so you, in a sense, you are the author of your experience. And so you can make a choice to go to class and listen, take notes, take the exam, write the paper. But you can also get yourself to a point where you're comfortable jumping into a situation where you might not be completely comfortable and where you're willing to accept feedback that might not be exactly what you want to hear or might not be that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and stop and think it through. If someone gives you a critique, if you get a comment on a paper, if a student disagrees with you, are they right? Because if you think it through, you're either going to realize they are right, and now you're going to know more, or you're going to realize that you're right and have a better idea of why. So come, participate in class, go to events at SIPA, go to office hours, talk to faculty, and have these conversations and find out how it is that we all interact with each other, which is sort of one model, but get involved.
Great. Do we have another?
All the way up front, on this side at least.
Good morning. So it seems like an essential part of Columbia SIPA is learning how to be a diplomat, both domestically and internationally. However, diplomacy gave us the Mao Nixon opening of China and gave way to the second global superpower of the world. And the Maduro operation was a military success, even though it was completely undiplomatic. We are still waiting to see the fallout of it. But with kind of the new global order, what tools does Columbia SIPA give us to understand when to stop diplomacy and with a foreign or domestic actor into somebody who's just non-compromising, and how to deal with the fallout of bad diplomacy like the opening of China?
So without getting into a discussion of whether the opening of China is good or bad, because I think you'd have robust arguments on both sides of that, the tools of diplomacy, as Mike was saying are how you deal with people. How do you persuade people? How do you be an advocate? The tools of military and economic coercion are things that you use in service of diplomacy. You don't use them as a means to as an end in themselves. So I was responsible for economic sanctions. Economic sanctions are economic warfare. The cardinal principle is there has to be a diplomatic goal that the economic coercion is serving. Otherwise, you're just inflicting pain. So when you sit at a table in the Situation Room, as I did countless times, I always found that the people who most understood how important it was to use economic tools carefully were wearing uniforms, because that's how they thought about using military force. It's limited, it's, in the case of military force, lethal. In the case of economic force, causes huge pain for people, and you only use it to accomplish an end. So I don't think that there's a hard line between diplomacy and either military or economic coercion. If they're not harmoniously combined, all you're doing is fighting, because wars on their own do not resolve political issues. It takes diplomacy to resolve political issues.
Thanks. Was there another here?
Oh, way up front.
Hi, thanks for taking the time to speak with us today. Given SIPA's emphasis on merging theory and practice, how do you integrate like ethical conundrums or prepare students to face ethical conundrums on the field? Do you ever harken back to your own experiences or reflect on scenarios where you perhaps could have acted differently or would weigh things differently now?
So, again, not advertising, but in my fall class, I actually have my former Inspector General come and teach the class and talk about ethics. I think ethics are incredibly important. I spent a lot of time in that work when I was a city council member, created the Board of Ethics in Philadelphia, campaign finance, contribution limits, et cetera, et cetera. I also try to design some exercises that will bring in kind of ethical issues. How do you make decisions? Because you will be challenged. Unfortunately, I can assure you that right now at 10:50, someone in some city government or state or federal government is probably doing something that they should not be doing. More than likely, they will be caught. As I do joke, but it is true, most of the people who try to make a lot of money in government usually go to jail. And so helping folks understand, not always, but most, we try to make it as difficult as possible. But my point is, there will be ethical challenges. People will do things in the workplace. Your boss, your supervisor, your colleague, someone will instruct you to do X, Y, and Z. You will have to decide, is that the right thing to do? Not just legally, but is it the right thing to do in this environment? And while on the one hand you can't quit your job every day, there are moments where you will have to think about, I will not be a part of this. And that takes a lot of intestinal fortitude, quite frankly. And so, at least speaking for myself and other things that I do here at SIPA, I try to emphasize that. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. It's not always, kind of one of the episodes of The West Wing, right? It's really great, and then there's a commercial, and then everybody gets along, and then there's soaring music, and, life is fantastic. No, sometimes it's really screwed up, and people do bad things, and you have to be prepared to personally to deal with that.
So on that sunny note, I think we're out of time.
Can we get
but
maybe 1 minute
Oh.
to end on a more inspirational note?
please,
Yeah, please.
100% agree with what Mike Nutter just said. These moments come up, whether it's on someone's bad behavior or on policies you find totally objectionable, where you do have to vote with your feet and say, I can't be part of it. But that is an infinitesimal percentage of your total experience. Right. In a career, it comes up, you can count on a hand the number of times it comes up. But you have to know that when it comes up, you have to be strong enough, or else it affects the rest of how you approach your career. And I hope that one of the things we do as we try to teach here at SIPA is give you some of those North Stars or methods of having your own North Star. Because getting out on the field and getting things done is how you make this a better world.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, I hope this gives you a little bit of a sample of what you might experience in the classroom this fall. So thanks to the panelists. Thank you all for coming, and hope to see you in the fall.